Hello there, squirrels. Let's see if I can... Oh, please not get sleepy. Alright, here we go. Cedric said with a sidelong glance at Emma, "Shall we go into the other room?" Emma said quickly, "I'll leave you." At the door, she paused and turned. "This is serious, you know, Cedric. If the 20th was the day of murder, then you must tell Inspector Craddock exactly what you were doing." I had read part of this. Not sure where that might have been. I don't know. Anyway, she went through into the next room and closed the door behind her. "Good old Em," said Cedric. "Well, here goes. Yes, I left Ibiza on the 19th, all right. Planned to break the journey in Paris and spend a couple of days routing up some old friends on the left bank. But as a matter of fact, there was a very attractive woman on the plane." I remember reading this. "Quite a dish. To put it plainly, she and I got off together. She was on her way to the States, had to spend a couple of nights in London to see about some business or other. We got to London on the 19th. We stayed at the Kingsway Palace, in case your guys haven't found that out yet. Called myself John Brown. Never does to use your own name on these occasions." I think I read this whole page. "And on the 20th, Cedric made a grimace. "Morning, pretty well occupied by a terrific hangover. In the afternoon, from 3 o'clock onwards, let me see. Well, I mooned about, as you might say, went into the National Gallery, that's respectable enough, saw a film, Rowena of the Range." I've always had a passion for westerns. This was a corker. "Then a drink or two in the bar and a bit of sleep in my room, and about 10 o'clock with a girlfriend and a round of various hot spots. Can't even remember most of their names. Jumping Frog was one, I think. She knew 'em all, got pretty well plastered, and to tell the truth, don't remember much more till I woke up the next morning with an even worse hangover. Girlfriend hopped off to catch her plane, and I poured cold water over my head, got a chemist to give me a devil's brew, and then started off for this place, pretending I'd just arrived at Heathrow. No need to upset Emma, I thought. You know what women are, always hurt if you don't come straight home. I had to borrow money from her to pay the taxi. I was completely cleaned out. No use asking the old man, he'd never cough up, mean old brute. Well, Inspector, satisfied? Can any of this be substantiated, Mr. Crackenthorpe? Say, between 3 p.m. and 7 p.m.? Most unlikely, I should think, said Cedric cheerfully. National Gallery, where the attendants look at you with a lackluster eye in a crowded picture show. No, not likely. Emma re-entered. She held a small engagement book in her hand. "You want to know what everyone was doing on 20th December, is that right, Inspector Craddock?" Yes, Miss Crackenthorpe. "I've just been looking in my engagement book. On the 20th, I went into Brackhampton to attend a meeting of the Church Restoration Fund. That finished about 1:45, and I lunched with Lady Addington and Miss Bartlett, who were also on the committee, at the Cadena Cafe. After lunch, I did some shopping, stores for Christmas and also Christmas presents. I went to Greenford's and Y'all. No, not Y'all. I don't know what it is. Lyall. Lyle. And Swift's Boots. Boots is a kind of like a drugstore. And probably several other shops. I had tea about 4:45 in the Shamrock Tea Rooms, and then went to the station to meet Brian, who was coming by train. I got home about 6 o'clock, found my father in a very bad temper. I had left lunch ready for him, but Mrs. Hart, who has to come in the afternoon, gave him his tea and give him his tea had not arrived, he was so angry that he had shut himself in his room and would not let me in or speak to me. He does not like my going out in the afternoon, but I make a point of doing so now and then. You're probably wise. Thank you, Miss Crackenthorpe. He could hardly tell her that as she was a woman, height 5'7", her movements that afternoon were of no great importance. Instead, he said, "Your other two brothers came down later, I understand. Alfred came down late on Saturday evening. He tells me he tried to ring me on my telephone that afternoon I was out, but my father, if he is upset, will never answer the telephone. My brother Harold did not come down until Christmas Eve. Thank you, Miss Crackenthorpe." "I suppose I mustn't ask," she hesitated, "what has come up new that prompts these inquiries?" Craddock took the folder from his pocket. Using the tips of his fingers, he extracted the envelope. "Don't touch it, please, but do you recognize this?" But Emma, staring at him, bewildered. "That's my handwriting. That's the letter I wrote to Martine." "I thought it might be." "But how did you get it? Have you found her?" "It would seem possible we have found her. This empty envelope was found here." "In the house? On the grounds? Then she did come here. You mean it was Martine there in the sarcophagus?" "It would seem very likely, Miss Crackenthorpe," said Craddock gently. It seemed even more likely when he got back to town. A message was waiting him from Armand Dezin. One of the girlfriends has had a postcard from Anna Stravinska. Apparently the cruise story was a trust. What in the world would I get that from? Shoot. Was it trust? Apparently the cruise story was true. She has reached Jamaica and is having, in your phrase, a wonderful time. Craddock crumpled up the message and threw it into the wastepaper basket. Good Lord. Part 3. "I must say," said Alexander, sitting up in bed thoughtfully consuming a chocolate bar, "that this has been the most smashing day ever. Actually finding a real clue." His voice was awed. "In fact, the whole holidays have been smashing," he added happily. "I don't suppose such a thing will ever happen again." "I hope it won't happen again to me," said Lucy, who was on her knees packing Alexander's clothes into a suitcase. "Do you want all this space fiction with you?" "Not those two on the top." Hang on. Do you want those two? Not those two top ones. I've read them. "The football and my football boots and the gum boots can go separately. What difficult things you boys do travel with. It won't matter. They're sending the rolls for us. They've got us smashing rolls. They got one of the new Mercedes Benzes too. They must be rich, rolling, jolly nice too. All the same, I rather wish we weren't leaving here. Another body might turn up." "I sincerely hope not." "Well, it often does in books. I mean, somebody who's seen something or heard something gets done in too. It might be you," he added, unrolling a second chocolate bar. "Thank you." "I don't want it to be you," Alexander assured her. "I like you very much, and so does Daughters. We think you're out of this world as a cook. Absolutely lovely grub. You're very sensible, too." This last was clearly an expression of high approval. Lucy took it as such. And said, "Thank you, but I don't intend. Hang on. But I don't intend to get killed just to please you." "Well, you'd better be careful then," Alexander told her. He paused to consume more nourishment, and then said in a slightly offhand voice, "If Dad turns up from time to time, you'll look after him, won't you?" "Yes, of course," said Lucy, a little surprised. The trouble with Dad is," Alexander informed her, "that London life doesn't suit him. He gets in, you know, with quite the wrong type of women." He shook his head in a worried manner. "I'm very fond of him," he added, "but he needs someone to look after him. He drifts about and gets in with the wrong people. It's a great pity Mum died when she did. Brian needs a proper home life." He looked solemnly at Lucy and reached out for another chocolate bar. "Not a fourth one, Alexander," Lucy pleaded. "You'll be sick." "Oh, I don't think so. I ate 6 running once and I wasn't. I'm not the bilious type." He paused and then said, "Brian likes you, you know." "Likes you, you know. That's very nice of him. He's a bit of an ass in some ways," said Brian's son, "but he was a jolly good fighter pilot. He's awfully brave and he's awfully good-natured." He paused. Then, averting his eyes to the ceiling, he said rather self-consciously, "I think, really, you know, it would be a good thing if he married again. Somebody decent. I shouldn't myself think at all." "I shouldn't myself mind at all having a stepmother, not, I mean, if she was a decent sort." With a sense of shock, Lucy realized there was a definite point in Alexander's conversation. All the stepmother bosh went on in Alexander's shoulder. Still addressing the ceiling, "is really quite out of date. Lots of chaps, Stodders and I know, have stepmothers, divorce and all that. And they get on quite well together. Depends on the stepmother, of course. And of course it does make a bit of confusion taking you out and on sports day and all that. I mean, if there are 2 sets of parents, though again it helps if you want to cash in." He paused and confronted with the problems of modern life. As for Yarn Geek, and then Kelly's Crochet Adventure should be coming on in a little bit. Let's see. Oh, shoot. Where was I? "She's a decent sort." Lucy felt touched. "I think you're very sensible, Alexander. We must try and find a nice wife for your father." "Yes," said Alexander noncommittally. He added in an offhand manner, "I thought I'd just mention it. Brian likes you very much. He told me so." "Really," thought Lucy to herself, "there's too much matchmaking around here. First Miss Marple, now Alexander. For some reason or other, I hate to get sleepy like this. Dang it. Doggone. For some reason the page turned. He's awfully good and a bit of an ass. He's a jolly good fighter pilot. Okay, she was a decent sort. All this stepmother bosh went on. Alexander still addressing the ceiling. It's really quite out of date. Lots of chaps, daughters that I know, have stepmothers, divorce and all that. And they get on quite well together. Depends on the stepmother, of course. And of course it does make a bit of confusion taking you out and on sports day and all that. I mean, if there are two sets of parents. I read all that. Brian likes you very much, told me so. Too much matchmaking around here. For some reason or other, pigsties came into her mind. She stood up. Good night. Good night, Alexander. There will be only your washing things and pajamas to put in the morning. Good night. Good night, said Alexander. He slid down in bed, laid his head on the pillow, closed his eyes, giving a perfect picture of a sleeping angel, and was immediately asleep. Thank God. I'm sorry if that didn't make sense. And we'll be on chapter 19 again. That wasn't much. A little bit more. So let me mark 19. So that was the rest of 18. I got something out of it. Alrighty. I'm going to see who's on and try not to fall asleep and get some stitching done. Sorry about this arm. Trying to put my Kindle back up. Alrighty. Love y'all. Be sweet, don't be ugly. I should be on tomorrow afternoon at 5. I go in the morning to the podiatrist. I went today and got my right leg wrapped. I didn't have them wrap my left leg because I didn't know what they have to do if they're just... Anyway, I thought it best not to have it wrapped. So it'll get wrapped on Thursday when I go back there. Just an update. Granny's overhaul. Love y'all. Did I say be sweet, don't be ugly? Probably. There you are again. Bye.